of the first projects we're going to do in this class is the pinch pot project. We're starting with this project because it's one of the most technically simple ways to start working with ceramics, but also because it's one of the most ancient forming techniques. Pinch pots have been made since the very beginning of man's work with ceramics for very obvious reasons, because it is very simple to start and create a form that is usable. We're going to start by ripping off a hunk of clay about the size of a tangerine, and we're going to roll it into a ball. By passing the ball of clay in between your hands, rolling it around, you may have to alter the way you roll. Sometimes it's easier to roll it on the table. Find the rhythm that works for you. Take your time. You may find that as you're rolling, you get a bicone sort of object, which is fine. And from there, we can pass it into our hands again. And you want to come up, it doesn't have to be exactly spherical, but you want to come up with a rough ball. The closer you are to a sphere, the more likely your pinch pot is to be even in the finishing of the forming. Once we have a ball form, we're going to take our thumb and press it straight down into the center of the form, not all the way down to the bottom, just going in about an inch or so. And then using our two forefingers on our thumb, we're going to gently pinch outward so that we're squeezing the clay in between our fingers. And what happens as we're squeezing this clay is we're forcing the clay farther apart, but we're also rearranging those clay platelets so they're very tight against one another. You can see I'm just rotating the form, pinching as I go. I'm starting working from the bottom of the form, and I'm leaving the rim fairly thick for right now because that will give our pot the most stability, especially if we plan to join these two pieces end to end. We want a fairly stable form, and we want a good sized lip to form the attaching point for these two pieces. Now that I've got the bottom as thin as I'd like it, I'm going to very gently start pinching outward so I'm forming the upper edges of this piece. And you can see as I go around we have little cracks and crevices forming in the clay. That's because as we're forming the clay, we're drying it out. Our hands are literally wicking the moisture out of the clay, and that's okay for right now because we'll go back and finish that up and refine that more, and you won't see those cracks later. So for right now, don't worry about that too much. This is as thin as I want this rim right now because I want to be able to have a good attachment point later, because I'm going to join these two pieces together when we go to form our clay whistle. The clay whistle is an optional project. It's not required. You are required to make a pinch pot form, but whether you choose to turn that into a whistle or not is entirely up to you. And see, I'm just very gently rotating and pinching where I feel any thick spots. Use your hands however it seems the most comfortable to you. Some people find that it's more comfortable to use both hands and pinch simultaneously in this fashion. Some people find it's easier to rest it on the table as they pinch and work around. Our goal is to form this pot so that it's an even, roughly 1/4 inch thickness all the way around. And when you're finished, when you've got a nice even thickness, I want you to go ahead and lay it rim side down to dry. And then we're going to make at least 3 of these. And the reason for that is, like many other projects, in fact anything we do in life, the more we practice something, the better we get. And since pinch pots don't take a whole lot of time to start, it's a good starting point to get a feel for clay, how it works, how it responds. So I'm going to go ahead and make one more for you here. And I'm not going to talk a whole lot during this one. I want you to just watch the process and see how I form this one. I'll switch to the thumb and forefingers. Rotate and pinch. forward a little bit. This can be a very meditative process. Doesn't need to be rushed. Take your time. Feel the clay. Feel how it responds to your touch, how the clay moves through your fingers. Take the time to really feel the thicknesses of the clay. You may notice that right in here in your thumb it gets rather sore, you get a little bit of muscle cramp. If that happens, just go ahead and shake it out. You're using muscles in this process that you probably haven't used very much unless you're a musician. And muscles that aren't often used, when they're used, all of a sudden have a tendency to protest. So you see I have a second pinch pot, and our rim's a little bit uneven. Don't worry about that for right now. We can trim that up later. We're going to set this upside down to dry to the leather hard state. Now, here's one I have at the leather hard state. Leather hard means that it's not completely dry. There is still some moisture in the clay, but it's stiff enough that I can put pressure on it and it's not going to deform or move.